Hola, welcome back to my channel, Planning on Purpose, where we talk and share all things planning, financial, functional, and future planning. If you are new to my channel, welcome. If you are returning, thank you so much for checking back in. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel if you enjoy watching. My husband and I are empty nesters, proud parents of two amazing daughters, and promoted to grandparents over a year ago to a beautiful, precious little granddaughter. In this new season of our lives, we are on a journey to be completely debt-free, using a zero-based budget and cash stuffing method. Our biggest goal is to invest, to give, and most importantly, to retire early enough to actually enjoy it. If you are interested in learning more, please continue watching. With that, let's get started. Thank you guys so much for coming back and for tuning into this channel, where my biggest goal is to provide you with information and share best practices of things that I have actually used that have benefited me and has gotten me out of approximately $90,000 of debt. And it's a long journey, but is it doable? 100%. And I want to give you motivation and inspiration through my own personal experiences, while also giving you tools and resources that you can use and are easily available to you, that don't require a lot of technical background or a lot of technical knowledge. You really just need really basic instruments, like I always share with you, going back to basics: pen, eraser, pencil, eraser, a pen, and a calculator. We don't need any of these today, but I want to share with you that this was all that I used in my journey. I did not use an Excel spreadsheet. I did not use any fancy instruments. I had a legal pad and I drew my own lines with a ruler and I went to town. I started doing the work. And so just want to share that with you. You don't really need anything complicated. We have a tendency as humans to overcomplicate things, and it really is unnecessary. So let's go through I want to do a recap of my previous videos. In the event that you are interested and you want to learn more, you can definitely catch all of these videos in my channel. Just scroll down and you'll see them listed. We started with a monthly budget and we talked through this worksheet by the Budget Mom. So definitely, if you're interested in something like this, go to that video. The following week, we then talked about a paycheck by week bill tracker, as well as using a calendar to capture those entries, and how to utilize a simple blank calendar to really leverage the use of our pay periods and making sure that we give every dollar a job. So this is a fun video. If you are interested in this one, please go check this one out. This is one of my favorites for sure. The following week, we talked about sinking funds. This is a free PDF that I'm offering you. Go in my previous video, check it out, and download the PDF. It's free and it's for you. So take advantage of it. It's simple, but it is practical and it gives you enough lines, enough space. I just wanted something really simple to jot things down and keep it somewhat organized. And so this is a free printable that I'm offering you. So go ahead and check out that video as well. The last 2 weeks, we talked about getting rid of debt and how to get rid of credit card debt in specific, using two methods, the snowball method and the avalanche method. I go into a lot of detail about each one. I personally had a lot of success with the avalanche method, and it worked wonders for me. This is the method that I used to get out of debt. So if you are interested, check out either of these videos and see which of the two you like, which one you lean into more, which one's more practical for you and makes sense. This is all a personal preference. I'm not opposed to either one. I'm just sharing that this one in specific is the one that I had the success with, getting out of $90,000 worth of debt in 3 years. So using the avalanche method. And here we are today. It brings us to something that I figured, now with the end of the year approaching, January is a month of reset. January is a month where we set resolutions. January is a month where people feel as though they're coming up for air and they can actually breathe. But no sooner does January 1st come and go is when we start to settle in and the bills start to come in from holiday spending, going out around the holidays, right? Just doing a lot of activities around the holidays and spending a lot of money. January is the month where there's a lot of depression, there's a lot of anxiety, it's buyer's remorse, right? There's a lot of feelings and emotions that go into January. In the very beginning, people are psyched, people are excited, and they're motivated. And no sooner does January 15th or 20th hit, and we forget the excitement and the motivation that we had. So I want to provide you with a tool that you can use, or at least a resource that you can reference back when you find yourself in that situation, and or most importantly, something that you can start working on by the end of this year so that you're good and ready by January. And that ultimately is where I want to take you with this video. I want you to walk away from this video knowing you have a starting point. You have a starting point, because a lot of people say, yes, I want to save money. Yes, I want to pay off debt. Yes, I want to, I want to get out of credit card debt, but I don't know how. I don't know how. And the thought of it is overwhelming. And oftentimes when we feel that way, our brain knows that it's not normal behavior, and it reacts to protect us. And so when it does that, it pulls us away from those scary goals. It pulls us away from those things that cripple us because they are overwhelming. And what I'm telling you is the minute you start making it a habit, you will soon realize how your brain will now react to it being normal, right? Because it takes a while in order to build that habit. But you need to put in the work, and you need to do the exercises, mental and physical exercises. And so the new year is not just about creating the healthiest version of ourselves. It's not just about getting the fittest, or getting ready for bikini body or beach body, whatever it is, right? We need to look at our financial health, because I am going to tell you as proof of it that no matter how much you work out, no matter what you do, no matter what goals you have for your physical being, if your financial situation is in just a disaster, or it's unsteady, and it's a pain point of a lot of arguments and discord in any of your relationships, no matter how much you work out, you will still suffer from the physical elements of being in financial stress. And so I'm hoping that by the end of this video, that when you're done, you can say, okay, I know how to get started, and this is simple, it's easy. And my goal in my channel is to bring you the most easiest and simplistic ways of approaching your financial goals and your planning and all things, right? It's just all things, like I said in my intro. It's financial, functional, and your future planning. This is part of future planning. And I'm going to talk about how to reset your budget. Let's get started. Step one is you need to know where you are. We need to know where we are before we can even get on the road. In this day and age, before we head out on the highway to a place we've never been, what is the first thing that we do? One of the first things that we do is we take our phones, we go into our GPS app and our Maps app, and we put in the address of where we're going. And that's our guide. It tells us where we're going. We know how far it is. We know how early we need to leave, right? It's our guide. It's our compass. I want you to look at these 5 steps as a compass. It's understanding where you are right now and where you need to go. And the only way to do that is to actually do an assessment of your current financial situation. You need to know where you are. And once you know where you are, you can accept the reality of what you're working towards. Because I knew that we owed a lot of money. I knew that we were in debt, but I never knew how much. And my husband would always ask me, well, how much do we owe? How much is it? My answer was, I don't know. And we would get into an argument, and it was just a nightmare. And The reality is I really didn't know because I didn't do the homework. I never sat down to actually look to see what it was that I owed or that we owed. And when I sat down and did my assessment and it came up to almost $90,000, I literally almost fell out of my chair. My tears started to flow and my heart started to race, and it became extremely overwhelming. But once I got and pushed past that emotion, I realized this is something I have to do. And I was strong-headed and determined to do it. And so know that it's not going to be easy, but it's necessary. So let's start with your assessment of your financial situation. And you start with gathering all of your information about your income, expenses, debts, and savings. You do that by first gathering your bank statements. That's one of the first things you want to do. And you want to tackle it. You want to become very intimate with it. So you want to gather your information about your income. You want to also create a list of all sources of income, and you want to categorize those expenses. So you have rent, mortgage, utilities, groceries, entertainment. And like I said earlier, we talked in one of my earlier videos about the monthly budget. And this is also a good way of starting to assess. So you start to write down your fixed expenses. These are things that you know are set amounts every single month. And you list these out, okay? But you also want to know the full picture. It's not just about the things that are fixed. The area that will get us into the most trouble is usually variable expenses. This is the area where most of us struggle. We are all riding this struggle bus together. And this is the area that needs the most work. But we need to know what they are. We need to know what we're spending in all these categories in order for us to understand where we need to cut back. And I'll get into that. But you want to create a list of all sources. Nothing fancy. Listen, people, go to Dollar Tree, go to Walmart, get yourself a 79-cent one subject notebook. Go in and start writing. Take all of your statements. Keep your receipts. Start writing things down on a list. Keep a very comprehensive list of all sources of income and categorize all your expenses. And so this is where you'll see where you're spending the most, because you'll see more listed items in those categories. You can do one page per category. So maybe page 1, you have, fixed expenses. Page 2, you have entertainment, everything that has to do with entertainment. Page 3 would be food, everything you spend on food. That includes eating out, right? You want to list all of lunch for work, coffee at Starbucks, all of those things you want to list. The food and the entertainment are going to need their own pages. I'm just letting you know. So it's very simple. You don't need an Excel spreadsheet. You don't need anything fancy. And like I said earlier, review your bank statements and bills to understand where your money is going. You need to know where your money is going. And if you don't, that's part of the problem. Because in order to know where your money is going is the only way you're going to know where to cut back. So you want to track spending habits and identify areas where you can potentially cut back. But you need to write them down. You need to know where it's going. I highlighted some words or sentences or parts of sentences in here that I want to stand out and emphasize because these are important words or groupings of words that will help you with each step. All right, so that's step 1. Step 1 is assessment. Step 2 is to define your financial goals. We all need goals, right? To say that I want to work out every month, that's not a goal. That's an aspiration. Working out every month, in order for you to make that an attainable goal, you need to actually write that down in the way that it makes it tangible and executable. So that would look like, I want to work out 3 days a week for 30 minutes a day. That's an executable goal. That's a tangible goal. Working out every month, I want $1 million. The both goals mean the same thing because they're just too vague, they're too broad, and they're too big. We need to chunk it down. So let's define our financial goals. You want to clearly outline short-term goals versus long-term goals, right? Short-term goals could look like only eating out 1 day a week. And if you like to drink alcohol, maybe go to a BYOB place. That's an attainable goal. That's an easy short-term goal because those are your variable expenses. A long-term financial goal could be, I want to have $25,000 in my savings account. That's a long-term goal. And so short-term goals are things that you can do within the next 12 to 18 months. Long-term goals are 2 to 5 years. That's the span. Is it set in stone? Of course not. But you need to have financial goals. So these examples include building an emergency fund, paying off debt, or saving for a specific purpose. So working towards something is always a good motivator. Having clear goals will guide your budget reset. They need to be clear. They need to be detailed. They cannot be vague and broad. And once you have your goals listed, similar to the avalanche method that I shared with you, where we categorize them 1 through 8, you also want to prioritize your goals based on importance and urgency. So your $10,000 in credit card debt, you can't save until you pay off that credit card debt. So you want to prioritize all your goals to put all of your extra money towards that credit card debt. That's how you prioritize goals. These are all loosely stated because only you know your personal situations. These are all, again, this is a guide, right? It's something for you to use to reference, to help you when you start to kind of chunk things down and start to really figure out how you're going to go about setting your budget and your financial goals. Step 3, you want to create a realistic budget, right? This is exactly what I just said. This needs to be applicable to you, to your lifestyle, to your home situation, to your needs, to your obligations. What works for me will definitely not work for you. But you want to start with developing a monthly budget that aligns with your financial goals. And how do you do that? Easy. You start with some kind of a worksheet, some kind of a guide that can help you put things in buckets. I personally like this Budget Mom monthly budget sheet. This is what I use. This is what I use every single month. It works for me. It's simple, it's concise, not a lot of fluff in it. Love it. It works. Find yourself a tool of some kind that works for you. Me, I prefer pencil to paper. That's just my preference. And you can use budgeting tools such as worksheets, templates, or apps to make this process easier. Whatever works for you. Pencil to paper works for me. That's just my thing. I also try to reduce my screen time. So having things digitally makes me stay on my phone even longer, which I don't want to do. You want to allocate a specific amount for each expense category to cover essential expenses, savings, and discretionary spending. This ensures that your income covers all necessities and allows for savings. So if you go to my paycheck by week budget, that's where this comes into play. Because this will help you allocate a specific amount for each expense category to cover essential expenses, savings, and discretionary spending. You take what you make in that pay period and you categorize and you list what you are going to pay against that whatever paycheck that is. Definitely look into this this video, because this really breaks it all down. So that's one of the tools that you can use here. But most importantly, above all else, you want to be realistic about your spending habits and set achievable goals. I probably should have highlighted that, because that is definitely a key word. It needs to be achievable. It needs to make sense. Your budget should be realistic and sustainable to your lifestyle. What works for me will not work for you. Make sure that when you sit down to do this, and you have a dual income with either a second job, or if you have a significant other, it's also important to sit down with your partner and do this together. You have to be aligned. I found that was my biggest strength. It came from my spouse, because he knew we were struggling, but he was also willing to do the work and to help and support me get there. And so, you know, your budget needs to be realistic and sustainable. That's step 3. Step 4, here's the tricky one. Here's the one that only has 2 bullets, but is the one that will require the most amount of time, and it's the one that will stress us out the most. It only has 2 bullets, but it is a big one. This is a hefty one. This is the one that gets everybody into trouble. So you want to identify areas to cut back. Analyze your spending habits to identify areas where you can cut back. Look at where your money is going. Understand where that money is falling into traps that either you're unaware of, that you forgot, or that you are ignoring. You forgot, or you're ignoring them, or you intentionally forgot. But either way, you need to know what your spending habits are. And the only way to do that is when we go back to step 1, right? Where we do our assessment. In step 1, you're going to create that list, because this is where you're going to know where your spending habits are. When you see those line items every 3rd or 4th day, $10 here, $15 there, $12 here, $8 for a Starbucks, $6 for Dunkin' Donuts, right? Whatever it is, you'll see where your spending is, where your spending habits are. Look for non-essential expenses that can be reduced without sacrificing your overall well-being. Here it is. Examples are dining out less, canceling unnecessary subscriptions. But how do you know they're unnecessary if you don't even know that they're taking money out of your check every month? You need to know what they are so that you can deem them unnecessary. Or finding more cost-effective alternatives. One of the things that we did is I would constantly call our cable company, and I would stay on the phone with them until they found a new, this was back when they did this, where they could put me into a different category under a different package and extend another non-promotional package to me. So I can have the channels and still not break the bank, right? I looked at other areas, like I said earlier, when we dined out, we went to places that had BYOB, and we only went out 1 day a week. Every other day, I meal prepped and we ate from home. We packed our lunches every day. My husband started drinking coffee at home. We made all these little incremental changes, and ultimately they all worked for us. All of those little changes added up. And so these are some of the examples that you can do for non-essential expenses, and see how you can cut back and rein that in a little bit. And then step 5, once you assess, right? Once you've assessed and you've made clear goals, right? You've identified clear goals and prioritized them. You can then set up a clear, realistic budget that makes sense for you and your family. You're then going to, once you know what your budget is, you're going to look for areas that you can pull back and cut back on so that you can put that money towards debt or towards savings, whatever you have defined as your priority goals. And then step 5, once you have all of those things in, is to monitor and adjust. Things change. People's financial situations change. People change jobs. Your car breaks down. You find out that you're going to have a baby. You're planning for a wedding. You have a sick one that you need to take care of. You have, your grandparents that you care for, you need to help. All of these things, right? This is a constant cycle. Monitoring and adjusting, monitoring and adjusting. What I want you to take away from this, though, is that you need to know what you're monitoring. You need to know what that is, so that once you have a clear picture, you can tweak and adjust wherever you have that cushion and that flexibility. So you want to monitor your spending regularly, ideally on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. I am to the point where we are so structured and we are so programmed that I monitor my spending monthly because I don't spend. And I know my peaks of when I spend and I know my lows, but I have far more lows than I have peaks. And the peaks could be, we just remodeled our master bathroom. And so that was a peak, right? I knew that we had a lot of spending in those months while we were remodeling, but that was expected and budgeted for. So those are the highs and lows. You want to use budgeting tools or apps to track expenses and income automatically. And so that means that you can use a spending tracker. I have a couple. I know the Budget Mom also has a spending tracker that you can probably download as a free PDF if you go to her resource library on her website. There's a lot of resources and tools out there that you can use. If you want to use your phone or your laptop, then there are apps, or there's just other mechanisms that you can use. Or if you're like me, pencil, paper, good to go. And then you want to compare your actual spending against your budget. Excuse me. So if you see here, right, this is what I budgeted, but I never came back and said exactly what I spent, simply because this is a mock budget for the purpose of the video. But ideally, what I do for my own personal budget is, this is what I'm actually saving for. And then I go in here and I cross-reference it with what I actually spent. These pretty much stay exactly the same. Where we are getting the biggest variables are in your variable expenses. So these numbers in the beginning for us would usually go up. And I don't know why. But once I saw that trend, we started to really, really narrow in on these. And we wanted to either be at budget or below. So that's what this is. You want to compare actual spending against your budget and identify any areas where you overspent or saved more than expected. The key thing to walk away with this year is anything that you have saved, do not put that back into your checking account or the account that you use that withdraws money. Put that towards a credit card. Put it towards savings. Do not let any additional monies that you are able to save that you spend less than what you budgeted, anything over, either carry it over to the next month or give it a job. Give it a job by giving it to either your emergency fund or one of your debts. But do not let it sit in your account for you to have to spend. The last here is adjust your budget as needed, especially if there are changes in your income or expenses. This is a constant cycle, right? Once you've done all the work between steps 1 and 4, this is the one that will be on repeat, month to month, week to week. And adjust it to what fits you. Adjust it to what fits your lifestyle at the moment, the changes in your lifestyle. This is not set in stone. As I started, it is listed as a guide. a guide similar to, you know, the map, directions app on your phone. It tells you how to get there, but it also lists 4 or 5 different ways that you can get to that same location, right? It gives you options. And that's what this is. This is just giving you options and a frame of mind, get you into that right frame of mind to get you to focus and start paying attention, and also helping you get started. So here we have, remember that creating a budget is a dynamic process, and it's okay to make adjustments as your financial situation changes. This is so important. It's okay. This is your budget, your life. And I know that it's hard, and I know that it's overwhelming. But you have to trust that there are millions of people out there that are going through the same thing and are doing the same thing. So just stay the course, stay persistent. You want to implement changes gradually so that you can make the transition smoother and more sustainable. I would not go into the new year and throw down the gavel and tell your family, we are never eating out again. Well, that's a bit extreme. You don't want to go into it that harsh unless you find it necessary. But you do want to make the transition smooth but sustainable. And that's where prioritizing your goals, establishing your goals and prioritizing them, that's how you know that they're sustainable. Regularly reviewing and updating your budget will help you stay on track and achieve your financial goals. Reviewing them weekly to start. I encourage you to look at your finances weekly to start, because you want to see where you could be falling off track or where you're staying on track. Staying on track is the biggest motivator. So you want to regularly review and update your budget. Staying proactive will help you stay on track and achieve financial success. I firmly believe this with my entire heart. When you stay proactive, you will be ahead of any potential issue that could come up, such as saving for an emergency fund for those days that something should come up, and not stressing and saying, I don't have the money for that, I'm going to have to put it on a credit card. When you prioritize your goals and you set your financial goals, if an emergency fund is something that's important to you, then make that one of your priorities and contribute to that. And set yourself a goal as to when you are going to have that emergency fund completed. Friends, that is all that I have for you. Again, if you want this as a PDF, please let me know. Send me a comment. Let me know that this is something that you're interested in. But I wanted to come and give you a very simple, easy to use guide with 5 simple steps to help you get started, get that mind shift, just thinking of this in a little bit different light so that it can be tangible and doable for you. And I hope and encourage you to start writing down these things and start getting into the mindset of having financial health. Because once you are okay financially, a lot of your stress, a lot of your ailments, a lot of things will kind of just go away on their own. I'm speaking from experience. I'm not a medical professional. Let me just say, put this disclaimer out there. I'm not saying it will cure any disease or any kind of, major ailment that you have. However, the stress and the anxiety and the sleepless nights, and everyone knows when you are in debt and you have a financial burden, what that does to you physically. And so those are the things that it will help ease, and it will also put your mind at rest. I hope you found this helpful. That is all that I have for you. I'm wishing you all a wonderful, wonderful day, evening, whenever you're watching this. Thank you for tuning in, and until the next video, adios.